Despina Ariou from Greece, and this is my story for Words of Kindness by Simona Stampazzi. Thank you, grazie, mille grazie Simona, for doing this every year. Now, we know that Christmas time invites us to be just a little bit nicer. Maybe misers won't stop being misers and evil people won't change their ways, but I try to let the storyteller in me prevail and not the cynic. So if Christmas time makes nice people be just a tiny little bit nicer, you never know, this might make all the difference. This story has been given to me by my Swedish friend Karin Lundengard, and it is called The Old Lady Who Wanted a Tomte. Now you might wonder what a tomte is. I wondered myself, I never knew. Do you remember this kind of Christmassy gnomes we see every year, like in little statuettes or little fluffy dolls or depictions also? They look like dwarves and they have their hat really low. It covers their eyes and you can only see a round nose and a beard. Well, for the Swedish people, these are the tomte. And if we think Christmas is a cold season, you never know what cold is until you get to Sweden. Apparently, back in the day, Sweden was very, what is the opposite of densely populated? Farms were very dispersed. They were very far away one from another. Big distances, covered in snow, blizzards happening every now and then, strong winds and snowstorms and things like that. Winter is harsh in Sweden. Luckily for the Swedish people, if a person looks after their farm and takes good care of the animals and has everything in order and everything is proper and as it should, if they are lucky, they might get a tomte. A tomte, that little gnome we know now connected to Christmas, is a farm spirit. Not spirit really, because they're kind of real, like physically. They're very small, very strong, extremely, unbelievably so for their size. And they're farm helpers. If a person holding a farm is good enough, they might get their own tomte. In this story, there was this old lady minding her farm, her cows, her pigs, her chickens, all by herself, and she was really, really good at it. She really cared about her animals. She always shoved her poop away from the stables and the chicken coops and gave them fresh food to eat. But years had passed and she had not been blessed by the presence of a tomte. She often wondered why, since she was so good and she was very handy and she never needed any kind of help. She could do it on her own. She was a strong woman. I mean, the farm next to hers had a tomte, and what had it that a few miles down the road, that very far farm from hers had actually two tomtes? Well, she had been asking and praying for a tomte for a long time. She never got one. She really did not know what she was doing wrong. Truth is, between you and I, well, if some poor person would happen to pass by her farm and ask for some kind of offering, she would always say, I'm just an old woman, hardly get by on my own. Surely if you go to the next farm, they'll have something for you. And she would just send them away, just shoo them away. This had happened many, many times. And beggars and poor people, they knew word has passed. Word had passed from one mouth to another that this lady, well, even though she was doing well, she would not share. So they stopped going. It was just her. And she didn't mind. She was perfectly fine with it. But that year, the cold had been particularly harsh. You had snow every day. Every day people had to shovel the snow from their front yards just to empty the path so they could go out. And as she was shoveling the snow in her farm, our old lady, at the far end of the path, she could make out a little figure by the fence of her yard. And she tried to see. It was snowing and it was not very clear. So she went a bit further, a bit closer. And when she got there, she could make out a little girl just standing there by the fence. Well, the old woman waited, see if that kid would beg for food. But she didn't. Hey, you, little girl, what are you doing here? Have you got no home to go to? The little girl shook her head and looked at her shoes. And the old woman looked at the girl's shoes, and they were, couldn't have been more worn out. They had holes and it was snowing, and I mean, the girl was very close to having frostbites. Go to your mother. I don't have a mother. Well, go to the church. Surely they have some warm soup to give you or something. You must be freezing. She did not reply, just looked at her shoes. Well, if I let you go, if I leave you here, surely you'll freeze to death. I'll find your dead body in the morning. Come on, come in, open the fence door. Come in. And very shyly, very reluctantly, the little girl opened up the fence door and she went inside. The old woman took her in, had her sit in front of her fire, built the fire with more and more wood until it was blazing hot in there. And the girl, the poor girl that had been out in that weather, she was steaming. And the old lady went inside her kitchen and warmed the soup she had made that day. Took a bowl, filled it up, gave it to the girl with a spoon, still warm. And the girl had one spoonful after another as if she hadn't eaten for days. Before the old woman could blink, the bowl was empty. Would you like another one, honey? Yes, please. So it was that she filled that bowl again, took it to the girl, and the girl had the second bowl of food into her stomach that had been growling for she didn't know how long. And now, warm and with a full belly, the little girl just lied on the floor on the old woman's carpet and fell fast asleep. And the old woman, she went inside in her bedroom. She took the blanket from her bed, went back in front of the fireplace, covered the little girl, and sat in her rocking chair beside the girl. And she must have been dozing off herself when she heard it was dead quiet in the farm, nobody went there, just the wind and the snow. She could hear footsteps. And she went to the window and had a peek outside, just had to wipe the window a little bit so she could see from the frost, and she could see little footsteps going from the stable where the cows were to the pigstead where the pigs were, to the chicken coop, and then they were leading to her front door, and she didn't know what to do. She just sat in her rocking chair and waited, really, really quiet. Behind her, she could hear the creaking of a door and little footsteps inside her home, the door closing. And the footsteps went all the way to the kitchen, and she could hear somebody doing the washing up, and she knew that year she would finally have her own Tomte. We don't know how the story evolved. We don't know what happened. What we do know is that a woman never let go of that girl. She never abandoned her. She just allowed her to stay in her house, and she raised her as if she were her own daughter. The two of them would handle the farm now, along with the best helper in the world, their very own Tomte. I am sure that they lived happily ever after, as I hope you will. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.